The peace you think you found after walking away is usually a calculated silence. Most men mistake this quiet period for total indifference, assuming she's either moved on instantly or never cared in the first place. You see her silence and think, well, that's that. But in reality, you are being watched from a distance. This isn't a clean break. It's a strategic waiting game. She isn't ignoring you because she's forgotten you. She's ignoring you to see if your new strong persona is real or just a temporary act. She's betting on your weakness because in the past, you've probably shown her that your goodbye actually means, please chase me. To her, your silence feels like a movie she's already seen. She's watched you pull back before, maybe for a few days or a week, only to see you eventually crack and send that checking-in text. She remembers the needy energy, the over-explaining, and the way you crawled back the moment you felt the sting of her absence, because you've trained her to believe you'll always return. She has no reason to panic. To her, your presence is a guaranteed asset, like a trophy on a shelf that she doesn't have to polish to keep. The harsh truth is that human beings rarely value what they don't fear losing. If she knows you're always just one lonely night away from calling her, she has zero incentive to respect your boundaries or appreciate your worth. She isn't letting you go yet because she doesn't believe you're actually gone. She is simply waiting for the clock to run out on your willpower. Until you prove that this time is different, that you aren't just taking a break but are genuinely moving forward, she will continue to treat your absence as a minor inconvenience rather than a permanent loss. The real shift happens when your absence stops looking like a tantrum and starts looking like a lifestyle. In the beginning, she likely viewed your silence as a strategic move, a game you were playing to get a reaction out of her. But the energy changes completely when that silence stretches from days into weeks and weeks into months without a single crack in your composure. There is no late night "I miss you" text, no angry social media post aimed at her, and no accidental run-ins. When she realizes there is no emotional outburst coming, the reality sets in. You haven't just walked away. You've relocated your entire life. You aren't trying to win a fight anymore. You've simply resigned from the position of chasing her. This is the exact moment the guarantee of your attention expires. Most men don't realize that their attention is a currency, and by constantly offering it for free, even when treated poorly, they devalue themselves. Human psychology is wired to prioritize things that are scarce and hard to attain. As long as she felt she could snap her fingers and have you back in her inbox, she had no reason to respect you. But the second she realizes she can no longer get you back on demand, the power dynamic is violently disrupted. She realizes that the safety net of your devotion is gone, and that realization creates a sense of loss she never expected to feel. When she sees that you've genuinely moved on, not to make her jealous, but because you actually found better things to do, her behavior will flip almost instantly. This isn't necessarily because she's suddenly in love, but because her ego is struggling with the loss of control. She was used to being the prize while you were the pursuer. Now that you've stopped pursuing, the roles have reversed in her mind. She becomes hyper-aware of your life, your progress, and your newfound strength because for the first time, she is the one on the outside looking in. The access text is a psychological tool often disguised as a harmless or friendly gesture. When she finally reaches out with a low-fort message like, "Hey, I saw this and thought of you," or a simple, "How have you been?" It isn't an admission of guilt or a sudden realization that you're the love of her life. In reality, it's a temperature check. She is reaching out to see if the emotional tether is still there. She wants to know if you are still sitting by the phone, still harbor bitterness, or are still easily manipulated by a small amount of attention. It's a test to see if she still has a key to your mental space, or if you've actually changed the locks. Most men fail this test because they mistake the reach out for a victory. They see the notification and feel a rush of validation, responding almost instantly with long paragraphs or eager questions. By doing this, you inadvertently signal that your entire period of detachment was a fraud. You show her that you weren't actually moving on. You were just waiting in the hallway for her to open the door. The moment you show that old reactive energy, the mystery is gone. Her ego is satisfied, and she will likely pull away again. You've proven that she still has full access to your emotions whenever she feels like checking in. To truly pass this test, you have to understand that silence or calm indifference is your greatest strength. If you respond at all, it should be brief, polite, and completely devoid of emotional weight, as if you're replying to a distant acquaintance or a coworker you haven't seen in years. When you don't take the bait and you don't use the text as an opportunity to fix things or vent your frustrations, she realizes that her influence over you has evaporated. The realization that she can no longer tap into your energy at will is what finally changes her perspective. She realizes the door isn't just closed out of anger, it's locked because you've built a life that no longer requires her presence. Real attraction isn't about the perfect script or saying the right words at the right time. It is entirely about your state of being. You have to understand that women are highly intuitive when it comes to a man's underlying energy. When you were chasing her, your state was defined by lack. Every text you sent, every favor you did, and every time you tried to explain your value, you were broadcasted a message of desperation. You were essentially saying, "I don't feel complete without your approval." This energy is the ultimate attraction killer because genuine desire is built on a foundation of respect. It is impossible for someone to respect you if they feel you don't respect yourself enough to walk away from a situation where you aren't being valued. You cannot fake a shift in your state. It has to be a genuine transformation. If you are just pretending to be busy or acting like you don't care while you're actually staring at your phone, she will feel that lingering attachment. True detachment only happens when you stop looking to her as the source of your happiness and start building that fulfillment within yourself. It's the difference between being a man who is performing strength and a man who has actually found it. When you stop seeking her validation, the neediness that once clouded your interactions disappears, replaced by a grounded, self-sufficient energy that is naturally magnetic. The moment you stop trying to convince her to see your worth is the moment your value actually begins to rise in her eyes. You move out of the standby category, the guy who is always available and easily discarded, and into the category of a man who is a legitimate loss. By choosing yourself, you change the narrative from "he's waiting for me" to "he's gone." This shift in your state of being creates a void that she finally feels, because for the first time, you aren't filling it with your desperation. You become a man who is whole on his own, and that is the only version of a man that commands true lasting respect. Staying in the chase costs you far more than just weeks or months of your life. It actively destroys your self-respect from the inside out. Every time you accept breadcrumbs, those tiny low-effort gestures she throws your way just to keep you interested, you are sending a dangerous message to your own subconscious. You are telling yourself that you aren't worthy of a full meal, only the leftovers. By tolerating inconsistency and allowing someone to treat your time like an option, you are essentially training her to disrespect you. More importantly, you are teaching yourself that your boundaries don't matter and that your internal peace can be traded away for the hope of someone else's attention. This erosion of character doesn't stay confined to your romantic life. It acts like a poison that bleeds into every other area of your existence. When you become a man who is willing to compromise his standards to keep a woman around, you subconsciously bring that same weak energy into your career and your friendships. You'll find yourself settling for less pay at work because you're afraid to be assertive, or letting friends flake on you because you've become comfortable with being an afterthought. You are conditioning yourself to be a people pleaser who abandons his own needs just to keep others comfortable. You stop being the leader of your own life and start becoming a passenger in everyone else's. The ultimate goal of detachment is a total internal rescue mission. You have to realize that the mission isn't actually about winning her back or making her regret her choices. Those are just side effects. The real mission is to stop the bleeding of your own soul. It is about reaching a point where you refuse to abandon yourself ever again for the sake of someone else's approval. When you stop chasing, you aren't just giving her space. You are reclaiming your power and reinvesting it into the only person who will be with you for the rest of your life, yourself. Detachment is the moment you decide that your self-respect is a non-negotiable asset that is no longer for sale. A truly detached man is defined by a complete lack of emotional friction. He isn't hiding from his phone or avoiding certain places because he's scared of seeing his ex. He simply doesn't have the room for her in his schedule anymore. His life is no longer a reaction to what she does or doesn't do. Instead, he has pivoted his focus entirely toward his own growth. He is back in the gym training his body. He is focused on building his career or business, and he is leading his own life with a clear sense of purpose. His energy is no longer leaking outward trying to capture her attention. It is being redirected inward to fuel his own transformation. He isn't trying to prove he's doing well. He is simply doing well. When an interaction does occur, the detached man doesn't hide behind a mask of coldness or bitterness. Bitterness is just rejection in disguise, and it shows that he still cares deeply. The detached man is far more dangerous to the old dynamic because he is genuinely unbothered. He treats her with the same polite, brief courtesy he would give a distant acquaintance. He doesn't feel the need to explain his new habits, justify his silence, or make her understand how much he's grown. He has realized that he no longer needs her to get it for his progress to be real. Validation is now something he generates himself, so he stops offering her the blueprint to his mind. This shift represents a fundamental move from being a people pleaser to a man of self-respect. In the past, he offered emotional availability without boundaries, meaning anyone could walk in, disrupt his peace, and leave whenever they felt like it. Now he practices emotional availability with strict boundaries. He is still a man capable of connection, but he has raised the price of admission for his time and energy. He has learned that you can be a good person without being a doormat, by locking the door to his inner world and only opening it for those who consistently show value and respect. He finally steps into his true power. The path to reclaiming your power starts with a total shutdown of the information loop. You must follow the first rule of recovery. Cut all ties completely. This means no friendly check-in texts, no accidental likes on her photos, and absolutely no social media lurking. Every time you peek at her profile, you are essentially reopening a wound and pouring your energy into a black hole where you get nothing in return. You need to take that diverted energy and plow it into your own physical and professional life. Instead of wondering what she's doing, wonder how much more weight you can lift or how much more efficient your business can become. By physically and digitally removing her from your field of vision, you allow your brain to finally stop scanning for her approval and start scanning for your own progress. The second rule is mastering the art of outcome independence. This is a mental state where your happiness is no longer tied to whether she stays or goes. You have to reach a point where if she reaches out, it's fine. And if she never speaks to you again, it's even better. You aren't harboring secret hopes for a grand reunion, nor are you actively wishing for her life to fall apart out of spite. True power is found in indifference. When you are indifferent, her actions no longer have the leverage to swing your mood from high to low. You are essentially telling the universe and her that your life is a high-speed train that is moving towards success, regardless of who decides to stay on board or jump off at the last station. Finally, you must raise your standards across every single area of your life. The reason you tolerated disrespect from her is likely because you were tolerating it elsewhere. You need to stop accepting half-F effort from your friends, your colleagues, and even yourself. If a friend is constantly flaky, call them out or move on. If you're doing mediocre work, demand more of yourself. This isn't just about her. It's about fixing the root issue of your self-worth. When you stop negotiating on the respect you deserve, you become a man who naturally repels toxic behavior and attracts quality. Once you fix your internal compass and decide that your time is a premium asset, the rest of your life, including your relationships, will naturally fall into alignment. The final truth is that growth eventually makes the things you used to crave look small. At some point, she will catch a glimpse of you thriving, whether through mutual friends, social media, or a chance encounter, and the sudden realization of what she lost will drive her to try and reconnect. But when that notification pops up or she stands in front of you, you'll notice something strange. The choice everyone told you would be so hard is actually effortless. You won't feel that desperate urge to jump back into her arms, and it won't be because you're trying to punish her or because you're still holding on to a grudge. It's simply because you've evolved. You have outgrown the version of yourself that felt incomplete without her attention, and you can't fit back into a life that has become too small for the man you are now. In this new stage of your life, the game of who cares less or who texts first has completely lost its power over you. You are no longer the man who is quietly hoping she finally realizes your worth. You have become the man who is busy building a reality so valuable and fulfilling that her opinion of you no longer carries any weight. You've moved from a state of waiting to a state of becoming. When you truly realize that your happiness isn't a gift she gives you, but a foundation you've built yourself, the dynamic changes forever. You aren't avoiding her out of weakness or spite. You're moving past her because your path is now headed in a completely different direction. This is the peak of your power, being whole with or without her. When you reach this level, you realize that the relationship wasn't the prize. Your self-respect was. You have reached a point where you no longer need her to be the mirror that tells you if you're good enough, successful enough, or attractive enough. You already know the answer because you've done the work to heal and improve. The door to the past doesn't just look closed, it looks irrelevant. You aren't going back because you finally understand that the only way to keep the power you've gained is to keep moving forward.